Hello, hello. Yeah, it works. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good? Excited? So, my name is Sergio, obviously Italian from my accent, you might understand. And I'm here to introduce you to the future of IP finance. So, first of all, I always like to thank the team because I think we wouldn't exist if we don't have great people working with us and trying to somehow get to where we want to get. Legends for us is because we feel that we've been around a long time. Like our average age is quite high compared to a lot of projects. And I would say that we have been around in corporation and previous job quite a little bit. So we span from music, you see Universal, Sony, Vivendi, from consulting with Boston Consulting, fashion, movie production, entertainment, and somehow in the last 3 years, the team has been spending a lot of time and putting all their network at work to make sure that we could build quite a large pipeline of IP and partners that we've been working on to start tokenizing, to start see IP assets to become liquid. So somehow, this is how we decided to get to Plume. We decided that it was the right time to start converting, if you want, conversation into TVL. And we decided that we would join the ecosystem. We also rebranded to bring a bit of discontinuity from the past. And this is like the public goal. It's been internally for a long time, but we believe it's doable in the next 12 to 18 months because the pipeline is like nice and steady. So, welcoming Nexus today. We like the brand because it brings somehow this world record, which is IP, which represents IP. We somehow looking at finance, want to say that one IP exists and can be monetized. That's where we chip in. And this is like what we believe. We believe in a world where nothing is like fully only digital today. So there's lots of value into music, there's lots of value into code, there's lots of value into patents. And most of these businesses, most of these assets cannot be accessed by normal people. Most of these assets are basically all private. You have large asset managers, you have like private equity funds, which are somehow looking at this economy. So we started to use tokenization and blockchain to bring illiquid assets into a sort of tradable form, into a secondary market. And IP is the asset that we chose and the asset that we decided that we're going to work with. We start with music. I mean, I spent the last 4 years in the music industry. It's a very complicated industry. I met a lot of interesting people. And we like music because it's simple. Because the money comes from the play action that everyone in this room, I think, is doing on a daily basis, working, writing code. That's how we generate money. So we generate money as a decentralized community, but we cannot invest in IP as a decentralized community, and that's where we believe that's the problem. And that's what we want to change. We want to make sure that also finance can be decentralized. Also finance can come through a network and can come through a ledger. So we do something relatively simple, a lot more complex to go into the details, but we design agreements that basically transform IP financing deals into tokenized assets, so provide a sort of stable yield for any consumer, and that's the way that we want to provide exposure to music IP. This is the architecture. It's simple for people that know us as Music Protocol. It's pretty much the same architecture, but we have a governance layer given by the token. We have the protocol layer that starts from the record notes, which are the agreement. Record pools are the primary market where IP owners and investors meet. Record IP yield, I like to see it as a USDY from Ondo, which the underlying asset is music IP and other IPs. And Record Guard is a risk mitigation system that we need to launch in the next few months. And then we got a fully fledged institutional company which is dealing and broking all the deals with everyone. So music is our first step. IP is a really large industry, goes up to 6 trillion, and that's what we are aiming to somehow go and grab. Thank you very much.
Awesome, man. All right, so we have some time for some questions.
I think that's awesome. I don't have any questions. I know the only question I have is, are you looking at tokenizing masters? in the music IP context at some point? Is that possible?
We are not tokenizing ownership yet. I think we're going to need to get to the stage. So we just tokenize the licensing agreement attached to a master. So if you own the master of, I don't know, Taylor Swift, you distribute it through Fuga, for example, which is a distributor. Fuga collects the money, and out of that agreement, that's what we tokenize. So the future revenues with an yield. So we anticipate the future cash flow for the IP owners.
And so do you see like large labels primarily as your clients, or do you think this can actually unlock liquidity for like smaller upscale musicians, as an example?
But to be honest, everyone, because every IP owner gets an advance. So when he has a catalog, sit with the financial provider and say, how much money can you advance me for the next 10 years? So that's where we come in. So we've been speaking from Universal down to smaller artists, IP funds, distributor. So everyone is interested because it's just about the money.
Yeah, that actually sort of answers my question. But I feel I'm not familiar with the music industry at all, but I feel like it's quite an industry that has a lot of gated access. So how are you sort of solving, I guess, a distribution problem there? And the fact that it has gated access, I feel makes it ripe to be taken over by tokenization, and that obviously has really nice liquidity benefits. But the distribution part, how are you sort of tapping into that?
I think it's gated because the financial market has too high of a barrier, right? That's the whole point of RWA. You want to do an asset-backed securities, it's going to cost you millions. Plus, you need an entry ticket of 500, 600 million. So find individual people that have that much of a catalog and IP. Only 3 or 4 asset-backed security came to market in the last 6 years. So the point is that with tokenization, we decrease this barrier, and we just replicate what is already going on, because the structure is pretty much an asset-backed security structure. Tokenized, cheaper, easier to settle, easier to comply with, but just following what is going on in the industry today. That's, I think, is the point. Cool.
Awesome, Sergio. Thank you so much, man.
Thank
Really
you, guys.
appreciate your time. Everyone, please give Sergio a round of applause.